let's take a look at how to translate statements that involve direct, inverse, and joint variation and change them into an equation. The biggest thing to remember is that every single problem that we do with direct or inverse or joint variation will always contain the constant of variation, which we use the letter A to represent that. Even though you don't see an A in any of these examples, every single one will have that constant of variation. So let's begin with a simple one, and each one will get progressively more involved. So the beginning is very simple. It says y varies inversely with x. Well, our model for inverse variation is just y equals a, our constant of variation, divided by x. So we've kind of done that one if you've watched the previous videos. That was our basic model. Next up, we see that z varies jointly with x, r, and y. All varies jointly means is that everything varies directly. So rather than just do a single variable times our constant of variation, we have multiple variables. Let's go in the order that the letters are presented. So z will come first. So I'll say z equals a. Remember, there's always an a. Every single problem will have an a in it, the constant of variation. And then varying jointly just means times x, times y, times r. And that can keep going. We can have as many letters as we want with varies jointly. They just keep multiplying. All right, next up we have a couple things going on. This time we see y varies inversely, so there's our keyword that tells us again it's going to be y equals a, but this time it varies inversely with the square of x. So a over x squared. Now just be careful, I see a lot of people for this one do the square root of x. That's an option, however it would say the square root of x instead of the square of x, if that was the case. All right, let's keep on going down the list. Next up, we have z varies directly with y and inversely with x. I see a lot of people on this one try to write two different equations. We're only allowed to write one, so there should be one equal sign. The way this is going to look, we'd have z equals, well, varies directly with y means the constant variation times y, and then inversely with x just means x ends up on the bottom. And so you can kind of think of these like we did with logarithm problems. Certain things will always be in the top. In this case, directly or jointly would always be in the top, and then inversely, that part would always be in the bottom, the denominator of the fraction. Kind of like with logarithms, we always had things in the top or things in the bottom. And then last up, we have the longest, most involved one. So let's see, x varies jointly. So I'm going to start with writing x equals, and remember, every single one has that constant variation, but I see a lot of people forget that because they don't see the a listed as a variable. It's not, but it's in every single problem. It's our constant variation. So it varies jointly with t and r means all of those things are being multiplied together in the numerator, in the top of the fraction, and inversely, so now we're moving to the bottom of the fraction, it varies inversely with the square of s. So once again, we're going to have s and then squared, not the square root, and there's going to be my equation.